Hello everyone, welcome to this Linux tutorial for absolute beginners by Intellipaat. I'm 100% sure that during the time you went through undergraduate education, you must have learned the Linux operating system for an entire semester. Didn't it seem a bit odd to you? Because Windows was not part of your curriculum as Linux was, right? Well, consider this, 90% of the world's supercomputer run on Linux. Not just that, Linux is the go-to operating system for everything from servers to smartphones. Linux is predominantly used because it is open source. Unlike Windows, it is not considered proprietary software whose code visibility is zero and is only available for developers within the organization. Linux has a mass community of developers constantly improving it. Hence, it is flexible and becomes the natural choice for cloud computing, IoT, and enterprise solution. In fact, the global server operating system market is dominated by Linux, holding a substantial 62.7% market share, with Windows coming in second. Alright, I hope by now you understand why Linux is so important. Besides, if you want to learn cloud computing, Linux is the fundamental block you need to master. Don't worry, within this 2 hours of tutorial, we are going to cover everything about Linux that you need to know. Towards the end, we will also go through the most commonly asked Linux interview question to comprehend what kind of interview question you can expect. So without any further ado, let's discuss the agenda before we jump on to the hands-on exploration. We will start by introducing the basic of Linux, covering what Linux is and how to get started with it. Once we have set the foundation, we will dive into essential commands such as checking the current file and folder, using help in manual pages, creating and deleting folders, and managing file creation and deletion. After understanding the basics, we will advance to more complex commands. This include copying and moving files and folder, installing various tools, application and packages. And finally, we will explore how to modify file permission using the chmod command. I hope I have made you clear with the agenda. Let's look at the very first pointer in our list.
So you need Linux to be able to go ahead and go through with the technologies that you're going to be learning, because Linux is the you can say most used operating system in case of any type of server architecture. Whenever you are going to be working with any type of technology, be it data science, be it cloud, be it data engineering, you need the knowledge of Linux. Without Linux, you cannot go ahead and work, because the servers where you're going to be working, the servers that you're going to be using, those will be Linux. Those will be having the operating system Linux. So you need to be aware that how can you navigate across Linux. You don't need to be aware about the architectural model, the operating system kernel and such. Not in depth. You just need to be able to navigate across Linux. So in Windows, you know how to open files, open folders. You know how to go ahead and create files, write files, delete files. In Linux, how are you supposed to do that with the help of commands? That is what we'll be seeing. So for that reason, we are going ahead and moving through with the Linux classes. Now, for the particular practice, I will not be using any specific cloud platform like AWS, Azure, GCP, any such, you can say, cloud platform. I will not be using. Instead, I will be opting for a, you can say, free web interface, right? A web solution that is available, which is free, is what we'll be using. Killer Coda. It's not just that Killer Coda is going to be the only option. There are other options as well. There's OnWorks. There are lots of options are present that you can use, but Killer Coda is the most easiest of them to set up. For that reason, we are using this. So this is the link where we'll be able to get a playground where we will be able to run the commands, and check what exactly is the output that we are getting. We will, however, need to log in over here in order to be able to practice the commands. So for that, we'll be needing to click on login, and then you can choose any one of these options in order to log into Killer Coda. You can log in via your Google account. Everyone should already have a Google account available on their end. So you can go ahead and use the Google account. Okay, so think of it this way, that we have Windows where we have this interface, this UI that we can use in order to be able to perform the tasks, right? In the case of Windows, we have an UI that we can use. In the case of Linux, which is also an operating system just like Windows, it functions a bit differently, however, right? What functionalities Windows and Linux have that sets them apart? We don't need to talk about that because that would be going about the operating system architecture. We don't want to discuss that. We just want to see the tasks that we are doing in Windows. How would we do those tasks in Linux? So in Windows, you know that you can just right click and then click on new folder in order to create a new folder over there, because you have an UI available on your end. In Linux, when you are talking about installing Linux, let's say in your laptop or in your desktop, that Linux will have an UI available as well. But when we are talking about servers mean uh, a platform that is hosting the website, right, or the application or the software. So think about it this way, that Google, right, the website of Google, all of the data that is present as part of Google. So when you're searching for something, or the information that you're searching for, your search history, all of that has to be stored somewhere. That is stored in the server. That website is being hosted in the server. So you can understand how huge of a space or how huge of a computational power you're going to be requiring for that. For that reason only, when we are talking about servers specifically, we ditch the UI in that case, because the UI takes up a lot of computational power. And when we are talking about servers, we don't need that. It is not going to be necessary. For that reason, all we have are the command line interface, where we can paste the commands in order to perform the task. When you're opening a website, how that website is going to look like, that is the user interface, that is the UI of the website. So you have an interface to communicate with. You don't need to go ahead and run commands to communicate with the operating system. An interface has been provided to you where you can click on options and where you can enter commands to perform the task. An example would be that you can think of a calculator. So you can open the calculator app on your Windows machine. Right, you can open the Windows machine and you can just type on the plus option and then the 2 option. Once you click on the equal to option, it will give you the option, it will give you the answer. So 1 plus 2 equals 2. What is the answer? But when you're talking about the commands, when you're talking about the CLI, which is the command line interface, you need to go ahead and enter those commands to make this happen. So you cannot go ahead and click on anything in that case. You have to type the command for that. So you'll have to say what is the number that you want to add, and then what is the you can say command that will be used in order to add it. One add, two equals, you can think of it this way. So in that case, you don't have an interface to communicate and get the answer. Instead, you'll have to write the commands for that. The same is true here also. We are getting rid of the UI to have more computational power available for actually hosting our website. So Linux, why exactly Linux is going to be used? So Windows also has its own, you can say, server system available. Like Windows, just like how Windows has Windows 10, Windows 11, Windows 8, XP, right? All of these options are available for Windows. Just like that, Windows also has its server options available. Which means that Windows also allows you to host servers where you will be able to go ahead and host your websites, host your applications. That is also available in the case of Windows. But Linux is preferred and is used in most of the operating systems, in most of the companies for hosting applications, websites, whatever be it, because as mentioned, Hitesh has mentioned it, Linux is an open source operating system, right? Linux is open source, which means that I have the code available on my end to create my version of Linux as well. So if I want to make some changes to Linux, and if I want to use that, I can do that. I have that option available on my end. I can make changes to Linux and I can use it. I like some, you can say, things that you need to look out for is that for commercial uses and such, obviously, like commercial use as in if you cannot go ahead and sell it, right? You cannot make the changes and you cannot sell it because it is already open source. So there are licensing requirements, there are licensing, restrictions in place. But since Linux is open source, I can make changes to it as per my requirements. I am getting rid of the UI to have more computational power available for my website deployment. UI is going to take up a lot of resources. It is going to take up a lot of RAM. It is going to take up a lot of my CPU usage. On top of that, if I have an UI, I need a GPU. I need a GPU, graphical processing unit. So in order to have graphics, I need a GPU. If I get rid of the UI, I get rid of the GPU altogether, and much less of my CPU and RAM will be utilized, allowing me for much more efficiency. Right? So these are some of the advantages you can say for using Linux. Apart from that, Linux is much more secure as compared to Windows. Linux is much more secure. You can customize Linux as per your specific choices. In the case of Windows, there's a lot of hassle that you need to go through if you want to go ahead and change the firewall settings. In the case of Linux, it's just one command. So it is really easy for us to customize Linux as per our specific changes, as per our specific requirements, I'm sorry. So that is the reason why Linux is used. That is why we are learning. Linux was derived from Unix. Linux is a child of Unix. So Unix was the original operating system. From that, Linux was derived. It was created by Linus Torvalds. So he gave L and then Unix. So L Unix, L Linux. That is why Linus Torvalds. So from his name only, he gave that particular name for the Linux. So Unix was the original operating system. From that, Linux was created. For that reason, the naming is like this. Scripting knowledge is not going to be needed. Because for scripting, you have other languages. In the case of DevOps, so you have YAML. In the case of DevOps, scripting is not going to be done in the case of your shell, so your Linux. Rather, you are going to be using YAML for the scripting. So now we can go ahead and start with the actual command over here. So in my case, I have a GitHub account, so I'll be using that only to log in. Right, so let me go ahead and do so. In your case, you can use Google whenever you will be practicing. You can use Google to log in or your email ID as well. If either doesn't work, then you can go ahead and create a GitHub account on your end as well. It is just giving your email ID and such. That's all it requires to create the GitHub account. So let me log in. I'll click on GitHub, enter my credentials. So I have logged into my GitHub account over here, logged in via my GitHub account, I'm sorry, and I'm logged into Killer Coda right now. So once there, I can just go to Playgrounds and I can click on Ubuntu over here to give me the environment that I need in order to practice. Now, in the case of Linux also, we have various different flavors. We have different flavors available. Now, what are flavors in this case? Usually the technical term that is used, that is distributions, or it is shorted for distros. which just refers to Linux flavors, which means that all of them are based on Linux itself, but depending on personal preferences, you are going to be opting for one or the other, which means that if you are having, if you want to put more emphasis on user experience, like you can say the ease of using the application, I'm sorry, ease of using the software, right, the operating system, you would be using Ubuntu in that case. Ubuntu is used because it is easy to use. Apart from that, there are other distributions as well. Let's say if you want to deploy a website, most commonly it is going to be having either a Red Hat based distribution, so RHEL as mentioned by Ravi, which stands for Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Apart from that, there are others also that are used for website deployment like OpenSUSE. There is Kali Linux, which is used specifically for ethical hacking, right? If you want to go ahead and move on to cybersecurity, Kali Linux or Parrot OS are going to be used most commonly. So these, what exactly these are distributions are is, as I mentioned, Linux can be customized as per your choice, as per your requirements, right? As per your decisions, as per your specific needs. The same has already been done. Like there are hundreds and thousands of distributions for Linux that are available, right? Which one you want to opt for, you will be able to go ahead and use that only. It is totally free because Linux is only free. Yes, Debian is also a viable option, as Pawan has mentioned. There are lots of distributions. It is not possible to go ahead and like talk about all of them, but just know that distributions are simply flavors of Linux that put emphasis on one certain aspect as compared to the other. Now, no, all of these distributions, the base commands for them are going to remain the same. What can change, however, is when you want to install something, let's say, then depending on the particular flavor of Linux, there are going to be different package managers, which we'll discuss once we'll get there. No need to worry about it right now. But the commands for navigating across the operating system, to create files, delete files, whatever, creating folders, deleting folders, editing files, downloading files, those commands will remain the same. So across all different operating system distribution, Linux distribution, I'm sorry, the commands for creation of the files and like the commands that you need to use to navigate across the file system, that will remain the same. So the commands that we are going to be checking, if any such command is there that is not going to be same across all distributions, I'll let you know about it at that point itself. So when we'll be covering it at that point only, I'll let you know whether this command is for all the distributions or not. All the distributions, by all the distributions, I mean majority of the distribution. Right? Some of the distributions, they can decide to opt for different commands. That is also possible in Linux, where you can go ahead and change. Let's say a command is existing called close. Close is a command that is existing, let's say. If you want, you can go ahead and change that. Instead of using close to run that particular command, you can change that to exit or simply E or X. That is up to you. And that will depend on the distribution if someone has decided to do that. But the distributions that you usually are going to be using for making the deployments, those will have these commands that we are checking. Right. Usually these distributions where the commands are different, those are made by people for their personal use. Right. There's like almost every single name that you can think of for a Linux distribution is going to be existing. I think there's also something called Doge Linux. That is also yeah, Doge Linux project. There are lots of distributions for Linux, right? You cannot go ahead and check every single one, but just know that the commands that we are checking are common for most of the stable distributions, right? There's almost every single type of Linux that you can think of. So let us go ahead and have a look at the commands. So in the case of Windows, you can go ahead and just double click on a folder, or you can right click and then click on open in order to open that particular folder, right? So you don't need to go ahead and move on to command prompt, CMD, which is the equivalent of this terminal that we are working on. So CMD in Windows is the equivalent to the terminal in the case of Linux. The one that we are using right now, this is referred to as the terminal. In Linux, it is referred to as the terminal. And the CMD, the command prompt in Windows, is equivalent to this terminal that we are running the commands on. Now, in CMD also, you can run the commands to perform these tasks that we are actually doing, right? CMD equivalent for the commands also do exist. So in the case of Windows, if I have a UI, as I mentioned, I can double click on a double click on a folder to open the contents, right? I'll be able to visually see, okay, these are the files that are present. These are the folders. These are the details about that particular file or folder. If I want to do that just with the command line, I can do that in Windows also, because Windows also earlier on used to be only command based. Windows also didn't have an UI very early on. It was also, you also used commands only to navigate across Windows, but that is very early on. Now most of the people, they use UI only for Windows. Very few people would I guess be able to use CMD. Even I am not aware about all of the commands for CMD because that is not that used. Mainly Linux is used and the terminal is used in order to you can say in the industry. So that is the reason why CMD is not that popular. So what you can do is you can use in Linux a command called ls, which will do what? Ls stands for list. Ls stands for list, which will do what? It will list all of the files and folders present in my current location. If I want to go ahead and give you the comparison in between Windows and Linux, so if I open, let's say, command prompt over here, this is my command prompt. Now, the equivalent command that exists for ls in the case of Windows, that is referred to as dir. So I can use this dir command here and it will do what? It will tell me what all are the files and the folders that are present. Right? This is Windows. This is in my Windows machine. So dir is the command that will allow me to see my files and folders present over here. Now, if I open this particular folder, which is C users Del, let me go ahead and open that. You can see these are the folders and the files that are present over here. You can see there's .aws, .azure, .docker. Right, those are available here also. You can see. So I can click on a folder to open it. Right. I can click on a folder to open it. My file explorer is open, right? This is my file explorer. So I'm able to see what exactly is present here. What are the files? What are the folders? What is the extension of those files? That also I can check. But when I'm talking about Linux, I cannot do that. I cannot double click to open a particular file or a folder. As I mentioned, I need to run a command ls, which stands for list, that will allow me to see what all are the files and folders present at my current location. Now, what do I mean by current location? So, let me go back to my Windows machine. So if I go back over here, you can see this is my current location. I'm currently where? I'm currently inside my C drive. I'm currently inside my C drive. I can go ahead and I can see that, okay, there's games, there's Intel, there's perflogs, program files x86. I can click on a particular folder. I can click on, let's say, users, and now I'm inside the users folder. So that means my current location has now changed to C/users. So I'm inside the users folder. Now my current location is inside users. So as I mentioned, what is my current location now after I have clicked on users is that I'm inside the users folder now. I have gone inside local disk C and now I'm inside users. That is my current location. If I click on Dell again, let's say, this is going to be my current location, C users Dell. So I'm inside the Dell folder. That means my current location is C users Dell. I'm inside the Dell folder, inside the users folder in my C drive. If I click on, let's say, AWS pipeline, this folder. Now where am I located? I'm inside the AWS-pipeline folder inside the Dell folder. Right? So I can click to open a particular file and I can check my current location from this top, my location bar that is being given over here. In Linux, if I want to check my current files and folders that are present at my current location, that is, then I would be using ls command, which stands for list. So ls is going to list the files and folders at my current location. Current location means whatever is the folder that I'm currently residing inside of. And that, if I want to check in which particular folder am I currently residing, I would have to use a command called pwd, which stands for present working directory. I will be using the command present working directory if I want to go ahead and check what exactly is the folder that I'm currently located inside of. And it will display that to me in the output. So apart from this, there are variations available as well of this particular command, right? That also I will show you. Windows earlier on only had a particular command itself. The CMD was the only method that you had to use in order to communicate. But now Windows has an UI and also allows CMD to be able to use. The same is true for Linux also. Linux also has an UI. In this situation, however, this is server based. So that is why there is no UI over here. It's not that UI is Windows, whereas the command from the CMD is something else. No, it is total part of Windows. The same is true for Linux also. The UI and the terminal, those are part of Linux only. Right? Those are part of Linux only. It's just that we can use either one of them to communicate with my operating system. In this situation, I only have the terminal, I don't have the UI. So that is why I'm using the terminal to communicate. Now, let us run the command. So ls was the command that we saw, ls and pwd. ls is the command that will allow me to check what are the files and folders present at my current location. So if I run the ls command, you'll see, okay, so I have two folders present over here. Two folders present. So You can see ls will display what are the folders and files present. How do I understand if it is a folder or a file? If it is colored as blue or purple, that means it is a folder. And if it is color coded as white, that means it is a file. So in this case, you can see I only have folders. I only have two folders available over here. One called file system, one called snap. But I do have one more option available over here. I can modify the output of the ls command. Let's say I don't want to check the contents of my current folder. So I can modify this ls command as well. So here in this case, what it is doing is, if I run the pwd command, it will tell me that, okay, you are located inside this folder called root. You are present inside the root folder. This is what the structure is looking like right now. So I have root. And when I ran the ls command, I was able to see that in my current folder, which is root, there are two folders present. One of them is file system and one of them is called snap. So ls is going to tell me what are the files and folders present at my current location. What I can do, however, is I can do ls space, I can give the path of a folder if I want to check the folders and files present inside that particular folder. So if I want to check the contents of, let's say, snap, what I can do is ls space snap to get the contents. So I can do ls space snap, and this will let me know, okay, there's only one folder present inside of snap, which is called as lxd. Similarly, ls space file system. So another quality of life feature you can say that Linux has is that you can use tab to autocomplete. So if I write F and I press tab, it will autocomplete it for me. Right? Just like how in your keyboard you have the autocomplete feature, this is a quality of life feature for Linux. So if you write F and press tab, it will autocomplete the rest for you. If I write S and press tab, it will autocomplete that for me as well. So if I do ls space file system, this will show me the contents of the file system folder. It is not going to go ahead and change the current location to file system. Remember this? My current location is not being changed. I'm just checking the contents of the file system folder as a modification to the ls command. And this is the path that I am giving. If I do pwd, I'm still located inside root itself. I have not moved to any different folder. If I want to do that, then the command that is used is cd. So in the case of Linux files and folders, we have permissions available. There are three types of permissions. There's read, write, executable. Read, self-explanatory. Like, do you want to allow the file to be read? Write, do you want to allow the file to be edited? Right? Do you want content to be allowed to written inside the file? Right? Do you want to allow the permission for the editing of the file? And X is basically execution, which means, do you want to have the ability to execute the file? Just like how in Windows, you have a .exe file that is referred to an executable in Windows. Right? Whenever you are downloading any application, whether be it Chrome or Firefox, you download a exe file and then you double click on it to open that particular file. In case of Linux also, you can have an executable file, but it needs to be having the X permission given, the executable permission given. If it has the executable permission given, then it will turn green. Now, as I was saying, cd command is the one that we used if we want to change our location. Cd stands for change directory. This will allow me to switch my current location to whatever is the folder that I want to enter. So in root, I can see there's file system and snap. If let's say I want to go inside file system folder, what I would have to do, I'd have to use the cd command for that. So cd space and then the name that I want to give. So whichever particular folder that I want to enter, whichever particular folder that I want to go ahead and enter. Is that cd followed by the name of the folder. So if I do cd file system, I'll go inside the file system folder. So now my path changes from /root to /root/file system. Right. Now if I will do ls, I will be able to see the contents of the file system folder, not the root folder. Root contained file system and snap. Now, once I've changed my current location to file system, once I'm doing ls, I'm able to see the contents of the file system folder. So cd file system, then ls is going to show me the contents of the file system folder. So cd followed by the folder name allows you to go inside a particular folder. If you want to come out of folders, then what you would be doing, you can give cd space ... This is if you want to move back one step. So let's say I am inside root. I'm inside file system. If I do cd space ... while I am at file system, I will go back to the root folder. So cd space ... if I run this command, pwd will show me that I am back at the root folder. Right, I have moved back one step. Now you can chain this up as well. It is not like you have to do it one by one. Let's say I am inside the file system. Inside file system, I'm inside again home. And inside home, I'm again inside Ubuntu. So what is my current path, my current location? root/file system/home/Ubuntu. Now in this case, how exactly did I reach this point? I reached this point, first of all, cd file system, that is one command. Cd home, second command. Cd Ubuntu, third command. So it took me 3 commands to actually enter into the home Ubuntu folder. I can go ahead and give the entire path at once to enter that particular folder as well. So instead of doing cd file system, cd home, cd Ubuntu, if I knew in advance that there is a folder by that particular name, I can do cd file system /home/Ubuntu in one single command, and I'll be able to reach that particular folder in one single go. In this case, however, you can think of it this way, that inside file system, I'm going to home, and inside home, I'm going to Ubuntu. So I can either give from root the path. So from root, I can give the path, which means file system /home/Ubuntu, because I'm already at root. This is going to be referred to as the, you can call it absolute path. Absolute path, which means that what is the entire path of my particular location, of my particular. So for Ubuntu, the entire path, the total path is going to be /root/file system/home/Ubuntu. So you can either give the entire path or you can give the partial path as well. Partial path means that if you're already at root, you can omit that from over here. If you're already at file system and you want to go to Ubuntu, you can omit file system, right? If I want to go ahead and move on to home/Ubuntu from file system, I don't need to give /root/file system/home/Ubuntu. I just need to give the path that is left over there. So think of it this way. So before I can do that, I need to actually show how to get out. As I mentioned, if I want to come out of folders, I can do cd ... but I can chain that up as well. So cd ... will take me from Ubuntu to home. So that is one step. If I want to move back 2 steps, I would do /... again. This will take me back where? To file system. If I want to move back further, I would give, so however many number of steps I want to move back, I would be giving that many ... over there after cd. So 3 ... will move me back 3 steps. So from Ubuntu to home, home to file system to root. cd ... /... This will move me back 3 steps back to root. Right. Now here, as I mentioned, we can give the total path over there if I want to move into that particular folder. So I can do cd file system /home/Ubuntu. Right. Now all I'm doing, I'm pressing tab over there. As I mentioned, we can use tab to autocomplete. So F tab, it completes, auto completes it. So file system / and then I can do home. So I can press H, press tab, auto completes it for me, home, and I can press U again and tab to auto complete it again. So if I run this command, it will take me directly inside the home Ubuntu folder. It has directly taken me inside home/Ubuntu. So cd /root, that is a viable option. Another option that is going to be present is, if I go inside, let's say home Ubuntu again, I can just run the cd command. Simply just if I run the cd command, it will also take me back to my starting location, right? These are my two options that I can have. So what have we checked? We have checked ls, pwd, cd. These are the 3 commands that we have checked. Now, if I want to check the commands that I have run till now, so till now, whatever are the commands that I've run, if I want to go ahead and get information about that, I would be using a command called history. History is the command that I would be running, and it will do what? It will let me know what all are the commands that I have run. So history will let me know what all are the files, the commands that I've executed till now. 2 commands will be checking. The first one of them being help. The next one, man. Help, self-explanatory, to get help on a command. So these are the 2 commands that I was mentioning that I'll give you the idea about. So help, as I mentioned, if you want to get help on a particular command, which means that you want to get additional information on a command, then you would be using the help command. And man, which stands for manual. So if you want to get the manual for a command, then you would be using the man command. Now how this works is, you mention the command name, so cd followed by --help. This will output the help options for this cd command. So what is its purpose, why it is being used? To change the shell working directory, change the current directory to dir. Dir is mentioned because here you can see cd and then dir. So whatever directory I'm going to be mentioning, whatever folder name I'm going to be mentioning, that is where it will move to. So it just gives additional information about the command. At the same time, You can use man command also to get additional information about a command. So in the case of man, however, the command structure is man followed by the command name. For help, it is cd -- help. For manual, to open the manual, it is man followed by cd. So help will be pasted afterwards, after the command. Man will be done before the command. This is just the syntax. There is like you have to remember the syntax at least of man and help, because the rest of the commands you can get the syntax for them directly by using the man or the help command. So man followed by the command name. So no manual entry for cd. There is no manual entry available for the cd command. If I want to check it, let's say for ls in that case. So man or pwd. So man pwd. This is the manual for the pwd command. How it is going to be used, what its purpose is, description, everything about the command will be mentioned. It's copyright, then reporting, how you are supposed to report bugs, who is the author, every information will be provided. And here at the end, you have press H for help, Q to quit. So this is just like how you have arrow keys in your keyboard that you can use if you're, let's say, reading a book. If you are on page 1 and you want to go to page 2, you would be using the arrow key, right? You would be using the right arrow key to move to the next page. Here also, if you want to move to the next page, you have to use the H command. And if you want to move back to the previous page, or if you want to exit, you would be using the Q command. So if I press H, it will take me to the next page. This is the page number 2. This is page number 2. If I press Q now, there is no more pages, right? There are no more pages. This was the final page. So if I press Q now, it will take me back to page number 1. This was page number 1. And if I press Q again, it will exit from the manual. So you can think of the manual as a book that you can open. So with the command man followed by the command name, and you can press H to move to the next page, Q to move to the previous page, or to exit from the manual. H takes me to the next page, Q takes me to the previous page, and the Q also exits from the file. Okay, so this is how I can get additional information about a particular command. Now I'll do the history and I'll share the history of the commands that I've executed till now. For that, I'll create a code share link. Okay, because this environment will be terminated soon. That is the downside with using Killer Coda, is that since it is free, every environment, so this particular environment, this laptop or this machine that was provided to me, it was only valid for 1 hour. After that, I have to get a new machine where I will have to do everything from the start. If I had created any files or folders, they will not be saved, right? So that is one of the downside of Killer Coda, but since it is free, so obviously they are going to be having at least 1 or 2 downsides. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the next set of commands. Now, as I mentioned that this will be deleted after 1 hour, so it has been deleted. We need to create a new one by just clicking on restart. This will give us a new environment to us where we will be able to practice the commands. Now the changes are not carried over. So whatever changes we had made in the first machine will not be carried over to the next machine, to this particular machine over here. So let us go ahead and have a look at the commands. Let me go inside file system and inside home. Now, if I run the ls command, I'll be able to see that there is the particular folder Ubuntu available over here. In the case of Linux, unlike Windows, where we can just click on a particular hide this folder option, that particular folder or file will be hidden. So in the case of Windows, we can just right click on a folder or right click on a file, click on hide, go to properties and then hide it. Right. In the case of Linux, there is no such option to hide it as per the options. If I want to hide any particular file or folder, what I will have to do is I have to make sure that it starts with a dot. So it starts with a dot. So whatever is the name of the folder, that it starts with dot over there. So dot file name or dot folder name, in which case it will be hidden. Right, in which case it will be hidden. And simply running the ls command will not show that particular file or folder to me. In that case, what I'll have to do is I'll have to use a modification in that case. I'll have to modify the output of the ls command to get the hidden files and folders as well. So if I do ls -help, I'll be able to get what all are the modifications that are available to me. If I go here, so mandatory arguments, these are the options or the modifications that are available to me. -a. So these are the short options, these are the long options. You can say long options and short options. So this -a is just the shorthand for -all. Right. So you can think of it this way, just like how I said, no, distributions is usually referred to as distros. Here also, instead of -all, I can just write -a. It does the same exact thing. Right. So I can do over here ls space -a to get the contents, all of the contents of my current folder. So do not ignore entries starting with dot. So files and folders that start with dot, as I mentioned, they are hidden. So with simply ls, they are not shown. So if I do ls -a, this will show me all of the entries. Okay, so in this case, inside the home folder, there are no hidden files or folders. If I go inside Ubuntu, I should be able to find some hidden files. So this Ubuntu folder, it is usually like when we run the ls command simply, it is shown as empty because there are no non-hidden files or folders present. If I do ls -a, so there are three hidden files and a hidden folder available over here. So hidden folder called ssh and three hidden files bash _ logout bash rc profile. These are the three files that are present which are hidden, and this ssh folder which is hidden as well. There are a lot of different you can say options that are available that we can use to modify the output that we are getting, but the most common among them is -a. Along with that, -l, which is a long listing format, which means that here in this case, how is the output being given? Output is given in one line. If I want it in a list, I would use the -L option. So you can see total 0. Why? Because there are no non-hidden files or folders available here. So what I can do is I can combine options as well. So I can do ls-al or la, it doesn't really matter. So I can do ls-a-l, or I can do -al, or I can do -la. These are all options that are available that would work perfectly fine. So I can do ls-al, which will display additional information about the particular files to me in a list format, in a list. When it was created, what is the size? This is in KBs. So 4096 KB, 4096 KB. This is 807 KBs, 3771 KBs. And this refers to the permission set of the file, which we will discuss later on. As I mentioned, tomorrow we're going to be discussing this because this comes into play when we are having a look at the chmod command. So we are not going to be checking this today because it is a bit complicated and I don't want to overcomplicate things right now. But this is how we can combine options as well. At the same time, there's other one available. L is simply to print the output in a list. Here it was in one line. If I want it in a list with additional information, I would use the L flag. So since in this case there were no non-hidden files or folders available, I had to combine that with the A flag over here, which gave me the details about all of the files and folders present in a listed format, even the hidden ones, right? There are like lots of different flags that are available. These are also referred to as flags. So arguments, options, flags, modifiers, all you can say are going to be acceptable terminologies for these particular commands or these options that we are using. Right, so L is for listing the contents. So use a long listing format, LTRH. So L we saw, it is in a listing format. R is reverse, so reverse order while sorting. T will be sort by modification, time, newest first. But apart from that, we have also mentioned R. So it will be in the reverse format sorting. Right. So that means it will be oldest first, newest last. And H is usually going to stand. So whenever you are having any Linux option as H, it'll most commonly be as human readable format. H stands for usually human readable format. You don't need to remember all of this. Simply A and L, if you remember, that's more than enough. H usually stands for human readable format. In this case also, it should be true. Let me check that. H is human readable, right? Print sizes like 1K or 234M, 2G. So in this case, you can see it was represented as 4096. If H was used, it would be represented in something that is much more easily readable. So ls-alh if I do, so 4KB, 220. This is simply written as 220 because by default it will be in KBs only. Right? By default it will be in KBs. In order to reduce the complexity, it is being displayed in this particular format. However, 220, that is simple enough. There's no point in simplifying it further by saying 0.8 KBs or 807K. That is not required. So that is why it is not mentioned. So 3.7K. So that was 3771 KBs. I simplified that to 3.7 KB. So it is much more easily readable. For that reason, H is used. Usually, we don't need to go ahead and use the H flag. That is not that commonly required. But if you want to use it, you can. So these are called as options. If I want to modify the output that I'm getting, I would be using options over here. Next one that I'll be showing, that will be for the creation of folders. For that, we use a command called mkdir. Mkdir is the command that we used for creating folders. So it stands for make directory. That is the full form, make directory. So mkdir is the command that is used. So mkdir followed by the name of the folder that we want to create, right? So if I do the help for this command as well, we'll be able to see that. So mkdir, any options that you want to give, followed by the directory or the folder name. So create the directory or plural directories if they do not exist already. Now in this case, for the mkdir command, in the case of the mkdir command, however, only one single option you need to be aware about and you need to remember. That is the most important one, and you need to remember that, that is -p. Apart from this, you don't need to remember the other ones. They are not that commonly used, but -p is very important and it will be required. So what exactly is mkdir going to be doing? I'll show that first and then I'll move on to the -p flag. So mkdir followed by, let me first of all check where I am. I'm inside Ubuntu. So mkdir followed by any folder name that I give, let's say A, it will create that particular folder for me. So mkdir B will create that folder, and I can give multiple directories or multiple folder names also. So I can say C space D space E. This will do what? This will create 3 folders for me, C, D, and E. A, B, C, D, and E. Now, if I want to create subdirectories or subfolders, what would be a subfolder? So if inside A, I create another folder called A1, A1 would be referred to as the subdirectory of A, or usually it is referenced as child directory, where this is referred to as the parent and this is referred to as the child. If I want to create like this A1 inside A, I can do mkdir A/A1. What this will do, this will create a folder called A1 inside A. But this is only possible because the A folder already exists. Since the A folder already exists, for that reason only I can run this command to create the A1 folder. If I had tried this for, let's say, I wanted a folder called F, and inside F I wanted another folder called F1, this would not be possible simply with this command. I would get an error. So if I run it right now, it will execute perfectly fine. And inside A, I will have a folder called A1. But if I try the same thing, let's say for my F folder, which doesn't exist over here. So mkdir F/F1, it will give me an error saying that no such file or directory. Now that is pretty self-explanatory because F folder doesn't even exist as of yet. As I mentioned earlier, F folder doesn't exist. So how can we create the F1 folder? So in this case, what is the reason we want, what is the reason it is giving the error? What is the error in this case with this particular problem? with this error statement, what can we gather is that the folder F1 doesn't exist, which means what? The parent directory, the parent folder does not exist in this case. The parent folder does not exist. In that case, I can use this -p flag, which stands for -parent. It stands for parent. So what this command will do is it will not only create the child directory, which is F1. It will first of all check, okay, does the parent exist? If yes, that is great. If no, it will create that first and then create the child directory. So I can add the -p flag, and this time I didn't get any error because F, which didn't exist earlier, it was created now, and inside F, the folder F1 was also created, right? So it has been successfully created over here. Now for this also, for folder deletion, we have two options available to us. For creation, we have the command mkdir. For deletion, we have two commands. One of them is rmdir, which stands for remove directory. So mkdir is make directory, rmdir is remove directory. And another one is present, which is the one that we will be using most commonly, which is rm space -r. Now this rm is used for file deletion. rm is used for file deletion, but with the addition of this -r flag or option, we can delete folders also. Why will that be necessary? Because rmdir command only works for empty folders. If I do rmdir followed by A, it will give me an error because A has a subfolder, if you remember, called A1. So that means my folder A is not empty. So rmdir cannot delete that folder. rmdir can only delete folders that are empty. Like let's say E folder. So if I do rmdir space E, this will be successfully deleted without any problems because the E folder was already empty. But the A folder, since it was not empty, it contains another folder called A1. For that reason, it is not going to be deleted using the rmdir command. If you want to delete that, we would have to use the rm-r flag. So rm-r followed by the name of the folder, which is in this case, let's say F. F is also having F1 folder. So that is also a non-empty directory. So if I try rm-rf, what that is going to do is, this is how it follows. So F has F1. So when I'm running this command, what is happening is -r stands for recursive. -r stands for recursive, which means first of all it will check, okay, so the folder that I've been given is F. Let me check. So F has a subfolder called F1. So it first of all decides to delete F1. If F1 had another subfolder, that would be deleted first. But in this case, since F1 is the only folder present inside F, so first of all it checks, okay, F1 I need to delete. It deletes F1 folder. Then it goes back to delete the F folder. If it was more elaborate, let's say there was A, inside A I had B and C, inside C I had D and E. If this was the structure and I've given rm-r A, what it will do is first of all it will check, okay, so A has two subfolders, B and C. First of all it goes to B, deletes it. There's no other subfolders. It comes to C. Okay, it checks. Okay, so C has two folders now, D and E. First of all, it goes to delete D. Then it goes to delete E. Then it deletes C. And finally, it goes to delete the A folder. So it goes there step by step, checking all of the possible subfolders that are existing to delete them first and then delete the folder that is mentioned. So if I run this command now, F will be successfully deleted. So these are the two commands that we use for the deletion of folders. rmdir, which can only be used to delete empty folders, and rm space -r, which is going to be used to delete non-empty folders. And remember, rm -r can also be used to delete empty folders. There is no such restriction, but I'll just mention that just in case. So you can use rmdir only for empty folders. You can use rm-r for both empty and non-empty folders. If you wanted, let's say, kdir, if you wanted this as your structure, basically, h1, h2, this is what you want, right? This is the structure that you want to create. So in that case, what is the command you will have to give? You'll have to say mkdir-p. Then you'll have to say h/h1 space h/h2. This will create two folders for you, h1 and h2. So ls will show me h is present. I gave mkdir 2 times. So another folder called mkdir was also created. Problem, so lsh will show me that there are two folders here, one h1 and one h2. So when we want to create files, what are the commands that we have available? So we can use touch to create files which are empty, and we can use editors to create files or edit them. Now in total, there are going to be two main editors that are present. What are those? Nano and vi. These are the two main editors that are present. So these are my two options that are available. I can use touch to create a file, or I can use one of the editors to create a file, which are nano and vi. I can also use it to edit my files as well. Now there are other options for file creation as well, file editing, but these are the main ones that is used. There are other options, but they are not that reliable, right? I can use echo, I can use cat. There are other options available to write content, but these are the main ones that are present. So if I want to create a file, what would I have to do? I will have to use the touch command for that. How would I use the touch command to create file? So after touch, I would have to specify the file name that I want to create. So if I do touch followed by 1.txt, what this will do is this will create a file for me called 1.txt over here. Now, remember one thing is that for these particular files that I'm creating, there doesn't need to be an extension. Even I can do touch followed by 1. That is perfectly fine as well. I do not need to give it an extension of .txt or like anything specific in order to be able to edit the file. Even a file that doesn't have any extensions, I can open it with an editor, right? So if I want to go ahead and check that these files that have been created, are they actually empty or not? Are they actually empty or not if I want to check? I can do ls-l. So ls-l shows me that both 1 and 1.txt are 0. Their size is 0, which means they are empty. So my files that have been created, they are empty over here. And touch is used to create empty files. So in this case, you can see both my 1 and 1.txt file, they are empty. Okay. So now that this file has been created successfully over here, if I want to go ahead and edit this file, I can use one of these editors. And the structure for that is also same as for touch. So I can do nano followed by the file name that I want to edit. Same goes for vi. So vi followed by the file name that I want to edit. Now, if the file name that is being mentioned here, let's say 2 is mentioned, so 2 does not exist here. So in that case, what it will do is nano will first of all create the file and then open the editor, right? So if the file exists, this command will edit that existing file. If it doesn't exist, it will create the file and then edit it. So Mustafa is saying, so one last question in DevOps, where we use this all, I mean in EC2, yes, in EC2 only you will be using. In EC2, you will be creating Ubuntu or Linux instances, and there you will be running the commands over there. You might need to create folders, you might need to create the scripts over there. For that reason, we are checking these commands, right? So as I was saying, nano followed by the file name, that can either like it will create the file if it doesn't exist, and if it already exists, it will simply edit that particular existing file. So if I do, let's say nano 2 and I hit enter, what this will do is this will edit that existing file for me. Right, this is editing the existing file because 2 is already existing. Hitesh is saying nano is good for Linux. Yes, nano is simple to use as compared to vi. Vi is a bit complicated. It is a bit complicated as compared to the nano editor. So if you're unable to understand vi in one single go, don't worry. You don't need to give it too much, you can say, thought, because you just need to be aware about one of the editors. As long as you're aware about one of the editors, that is good enough. I will explain both of them, but if you're unable to do it, if you're unable to use it, don't worry. VI is a bit complicated. It takes time to get used to it. So nano followed by the file name, which was 2. So it has allowed me to edit that particular file. So now I can say making changes in file 2. Once I've made the changes, I can then go ahead and use one of these two sections. So in the case of nano, what we have is we have two main commands that are available. One of them is even displayed here, which is caret x. This caret stands for control. So control plus s is one of them, which is used to save the file, and control plus x, which is used to exit from the file. So these are the two commands that we have available. Apart from that, other commands are also present, but these two are the main ones that you need to be aware about. Now that I've made the changes here, what I can do, I can use control s to save my file, and then I can use control plus x to exit from the file. Now in the case of Mac, obviously this control will be changed to command. Right, you will be needing to use the command button on your keyboard instead of control if you are using a Mac. So now that the changes have been done, I can use control S, which will do what? Save the changes. You can see it is being displayed over here as wrote one line. The changes that I have made have been saved over here. Now I can exit with control and X button. So if I press them together, it will simply exit from the file. So it has exited from the file once I have pressed Control and X together. So now if I open that file again, you will be able to see it is present there already. The changes that I had made, making changes in file 2, that is already present. Now I can exit from this file simply by using Control plus X because no changes have been made. So there is nothing to save here. So I can say Control X and it will exit from the file, right? So this is how I can go ahead and edit the file. I can save it and I can exit. Now I'm not going to go ahead and open Nano every single time I want to check the content of a file, right? If I want to go ahead and check what is present inside a file, the command that I would be using is cat. So cat followed by file name will display the contents of the file that I am mentioning. So cat followed by file name will do what? It will display what exactly is present, what exactly is written inside my particular file. So we can use cat command followed by the file name to check what exactly is written inside that particular file. Now, if I want to go ahead and do this, let's say for the VI editor, right? I want to use the VI editor to write some content. And if I want to save and exit, then what I would need to do? In VI editor, we have two main modes. The first one of them is command mode and the other one is the insert mode. So two main modes I have available. One of them is the command mode and the other one is the insert mode. So if I want to enter into the command mode, what is the button I use on my keyboard? I use the escape button. I can use the escape button to enter into the command mode in my keyboard. In my keyboard, I can press the escape button and enter into the command mode. And I can press the I button on my keyboard if I want to enter into the insert mode. What do these two modes mean? Insert mode allows me to write inside the file. So insert mode allows me to actually make changes to the file. It allows me to edit the file. So whatever changes I want to make, I will be able to do so using the insert mode itself. So only using the insert mode, I can make changes to my particular file. Now, once those changes are done, then what I want to do with those changes, whether I want to save them, I want to discard them, if I want to exit from the file, to decide on that, I would be using the command mode. So the command mode allows me to decide what I want to do with the changes that I made in the insert mode. Right? So I'll explain again. Insert mode allows me to edit the file, to make changes to the file. Insert mode allows me to make changes to the file. Command mode allows me to decide what exactly it is that I want to do with those changes. How I enter insert mode? By pressing the I button on my keyboard. How I enter the command mode? By pressing escape button on my keyboard. Now let's say I am editing a file using the VI editor. So VI followed by file name, which is 3, let's say 3. 3 doesn't exist as of yet. So there's only 1.txt. Let's say and 2 is there. So if I give, let's say VI 3. This will create a new file. You can see new file is being written. By default, I am in the insert mode. So by default, you can see I am in the insert mode over here. So by default, I am in the insert mode, which will be displayed over here. So insert, if I'm in insert mode, it will be clearly displayed over here as insert. If I am in command mode, it will be blank. It will be blank if I am in the command mode, which means if I press escape right now, if I press escape, what will happen? This will turn blank. That means I am in the command mode. If I press I again, I'll enter into the insert mode. So once in insert mode, I can write whatever I want to write the changes for the file. Once that is done, what I would be doing, I would need to enter into the command mode to decide what I want to do with the changes. So I would press escape on my keyboard. Now I'm in the command mode. Now I get to decide what I want to do with these changes that I have done. Now, what do I want to do with these changes? The commands for that are fixed and you have to use those existing commands itself. Now, what are the commands that are there? You need to remember these two commands, or not two, but rather three, let's say. These three commands you need to remember. First one, if I want to save the changes in a file, if I want to save the changes in a file, what is the command that I would be using? I would write down over here :W and then hit enter. This will save the changes in my file. If I want to, let's say, exit from the file, I would be using :Q and then hit enter. This will exit from the particular file. Now I can combine these two as well. If I want to save and exit in one single go, I can do :WQ and hit enter. Finally, if I want to discard the changes, if I want to discard and exit, if I want to discard and exit, then what we would be doing? :Q exclamation. This will discard the changes and exit from the file. Let me first of all exit really quickly, which means I'm doing what? I'm saving the changes in the file. So the instance is going to be terminated now. So let me get the history quickly before that. Okay, so I'll have to restart this. Let me restart it. So VI 1. Now I'm in the insert mode right now. Right, I'm in the insert mode. So making changes. Once the changes are done, I can use I can press first of all escape, :W to save. Now you can see this was saved, 1 line, 15 characters written. This is in total 15 characters. And then I can do escape, :Q to exit from the file. If I do cat1, you can see making changes has been saved. So what I did, I first of all saved the file, then I exited from the file. Let me do that again. So if I do make some new changes and I press escape, :WQ. So this is where I'm doing both of them at once. I'm saving and exiting in one single command. If I run this command, it will directly save and exit from the file. And it has saved the changes as well. New changes, that line has also been saved. Finally, if I want to discard the changes, so let me edit the file, go back here, and let's say I make new changes. Now, in this case, I want to discard this line. These changes that I've done, I want to discard them. In that case, what I would be doing, I would first of all press escape, :Q exclamation, and if I hit enter, it will exit from the file without saving the changes that I had done. So whatever changes that I had made, they were not saved and they were discarded. So whatever changes that I had made, they were discarded and then I exited from the file. We would be using the VI command followed by the file name to create or edit the file. Once that is done, I would be using I can use the escape command to enter into the command mode and I command to enter into the insert mode. Insert mode allows me to make changes to my file, which means what I want to write into my file, I'll be able to do so in the insert mode. And with the command mode, I get to decide what I want to do with those changes, whether I want to save them, whether I want to exit from the file, whether I want to discard the changes. So once in the command mode, I can write any one of these commands depending on what I want to perform. If I want to save, I would be using :W. If I want to discard, I would be using :Q exclamation. If I want to quit, I would be using :Q. And if I want to save and exit, I would be using :WQ. This will be in the command mode. So once I press escape, I have to use the appropriate command as to what I want to perform. As I mentioned, if you are not able to understand VI mode, don't worry, because you will be able to use the nano editor as well. VI editor is just another option that you have available. If you are unable to understand it, don't worry. You will not be able to understand it unless you actually perform it, unless you actually use it. Okay. So this is how we are going to be using the VI editor. W is used for saving. :Q is used for exiting. And :WQ to combine those two, essentially save and exit in one singular go. Now, deletion of files. Deletion of files is much simpler as compared to deletion of folders. Deletion of files, simply rm followed by file name. That's it. It will delete the file. So if I run this command, let's say I want to delete this one file. If I do rm space 1, the file will be deleted. So there is nothing to folder file deletion as compared to folder deletion. So file deletion, simply rm followed by the name of the file. As in this case, rm space 1, which deleted the file 1. Okay.
Just a quick info guys, Intellipaat offers advanced certification in cloud and DevOps in collaboration with IIT Guwahati. Through this course, you will learn a multitude of tools used in the industry such as Azure, DevOps, and AWS. With this course, we have already helped thousands of professionals in successful career transition. You can check out their testimonials on our Achievers channel, whose link is given in the description below. Without a doubt, this course can set your career to new heights, so visit the course page link given in the description and take a first step towards a career growth in the field of cloud and DevOps.
So what the next thing that we're going to be discussing is the copy command and the move command. Copy and move. So copy and move, just like how in Windows we have cut and paste, that would be equivalent to the move command, and then copy and paste, that is equivalent to the copy command. So when we are copying something, we are creating a duplicate of that particular file, whereas when we are moving a file, we are cutting and pasting the original file itself. So we are not creating any duplicates. That is the only difference in between these two. So that is the reason why mv command, since we are working with the original file only with the mv command, we can use that to rename files as well. It is not its primary function. It is sort of, you can say, an additional feature, an additional byproduct of the feature that move command is granting us. Now, for both of these commands, the syntax is the same. The syntax is copy or move the file that you want to copy and where you want to paste the file. This is the structure. Now, this is for files. For folders, we will check that in a while, not right now, because when we get to folders, there is a bit of, you can say, discrepancy, not discrepancy, but an exception in this case. But we'll get to that once we'll get to that. Okay, so right, that we are only going to be checking the basic functions of the editor. If you want to copy and paste, you'll have to just select that section and then copy and paste it. So This is the structure: copy or move, followed by what we want to copy or move and where we want to paste that particular file. So I don't have any files created over here because this is a new environment. So let me create two files and a few folders, and then we can have a look at how exactly we are going to be running these two commands. So let me go to home Ubuntu, the place where we were working, and let me create two folders here. So mkdir -p one and or a. Inside a I'll create a1. I'll create a2 as well inside a1. So this is the structure that I'm creating. Two folders, A and B, where A is going to be having A1 and A2, and B is going to be just having B1. This is the structure that I'm creating, B/B1. So inside A, I will have A1, A2. Inside B, I have just B1. And also along with that, I also need to create a few files. So let me create with touch. Empty files are fine. I just want to show how we are supposed to use the command. So touch 1, 2, and 3. So this is how we can create multiple files as well. So if we are going ahead and mentioning them one by one, separating them with space, then those files will be created all at the same time. So right now, if I run this command, I have 3 files that were created. So when I'm saying -p, this is a flag for the mkdir command, an additional option, a modification, which will make sure that the parent folder for the child that I'm creating will exist prior to creating the child. So in this case, A1 is the child of A. If A doesn't exist, A1 cannot exist. Since -p is mentioned, my mkdir command will first of all check, okay, does A exist? If it doesn't, it will create it and then it will create A1. So it will check if the parent directory exists or not. So let us move on to the move and copy command now. Alongside one A and B, I have 1, 2, and 3, these 3 files. Now I want to go ahead and let's say create a copy of this one file called 1 inside the B folder. So in that case, what I would be having to do, I would be using the copy command. Since I have been asked to copy a file, I have to use the cp command followed by what I want to copy, which in this case is the file 1, followed by where I want to paste it. So I want to copy this file called 1 and I want to paste it inside B. So I would be mentioning B over here. In case there was a file named B over here, in case there was a file alongside 1, 2, and 3, there was also a file called B, it still wouldn't be any problem. You can just mention the name of the folder because you cannot paste a file inside another file. That doesn't make sense. You cannot paste a file inside another file. Obviously, when you are going to paste something, it will be inside a folder. Copy and move always work with folders. The second argument here, where you want to paste it, that is always going to be a folder. You cannot paste a file or a folder inside a file. That is not possible. So even if there are, we can say there is a file and a folder with the same name, and you want to paste it inside the folder, you don't need to mention anything additional over here. Simply the name of the folder is more than enough. However, if you want to distinguish between the two, that is up to you. If you want to distinguish, it is not required. You would be simply mentioning B and then slash. That is how directories or folders are mentioned. Folders are mentioned. So if there are two, let's say B as a file and B as a folder, how you would distinguish in between the two? The one that has slash at the end, that would be the folder. That is how folders are mentioned. That is the naming convention. But in this case, when we are mentioning the location where we want to paste it, there is no need for us to mention this slash because by default, or not by default, but you can only paste something inside a folder. You cannot paste it inside a file. So if I run this command, what will happen is a copy of this one file that I've created, file called 1, will be created inside this B folder. So if I run this, ls will show me that yes, the file called 1 already exists. And if I do ls space b to fetch the contents of this B folder, I will be able to see that there is a file called 1 present inside that folder as well. So not only inside my home/Ubuntu, there is a file called 1, but a copy of that file has been created inside the B folder as well. Right? So an exact copy, replica, you can say, exact copy will be created of that particular file at the destination where you are mentioning. Now let's say I wanted to copy this file called 2 as well inside B. So cp 2 and then B. As I mentioned, we don't need to mention this slash because already it is going to be taking the directory itself. And Linux is case sensitive, which means that you cannot create if there are two folders, one called B and one called capital B, you would have to specifically name the particular folder where you want to paste. So it is case sensitive. Let me copy this first of all. This 3 file, let's say right now there is there are no files inside A, right? There is only 2 folders. Let me copy this file called 3 inside this A folder. So what would I be doing in that case? cp 3 and then A. So inside A, I will have the file called 3 available. Now, if I want to copy that, what would I have to do is, where am I present? I'm present inside Ubuntu. So after cp, I have to specify what exactly is the file that I want to copy. The file that I want to copy, that is present where? That is present inside A. So here is home/Ubuntu. Right. So I want to copy this file which is present over here inside A called 3. So in that case, how I would access this file is A/3. So here, instead of just mentioning 3 over there, I would be giving the path to the file. So cp A/3, which would access this file called 3 present inside A, and I want to copy it inside B, so space and then B. This would copy this file called 3 inside A, which I have copied earlier on. So inside A, there is this file called 3, and it will be pasted where? Inside B. So this was CP. Now let's look at MV, the command for moving the files from one location to another. So when I want to move a file, I would use the MV command. Same structure, MV, what I want to copy, where I want to paste it, or in this case, what I want to cut and where I want to paste it. Let's say, let me check what is present where. So my A folder doesn't have the 1 and the 2 files available. So what I want to do is I want to cut and paste this 1 and 2 file present inside B, and I want to paste it over here. I want to paste it from here. So instead of this being shown here, I want it to be shown over here. I want it to be pasted over here. For that, what is the command that I will be executing? MV followed by what I want to cut. What I want to cut? I want to cut this 1 and this 2 files. So B/1, and then where I want to paste it. Where I want to paste it. Okay. So MV, then what I want to cut, then where I want to paste it. Where I want to paste it, that is inside A. So I will just mention the name of the folder, which is A, and this will do what? This will cut that file 1, you can see. Yes, so it did cut that file 1, which was available here. You can see when I did lsb earlier, there were 3 files, 1, 2, and 3, but now there's only 2 and 3. Why? Because I cut that file 1 from that B folder and I pasted it where? I pasted it inside the A folder. So A was mentioned as the destination. This is referred to as the source, or from where do you want to copy, src, and this is referred to as the destination, dest. So from where do you want to copy, where do you want to paste it, or where do you want to cut and where do you want to paste it? Let's say I want to copy this B folder and I want to paste it in A. I'm sorry. Inside this B folder, there is this file called 2 that I want to paste it inside A. But while I'm inside the B folder, in case you want to do that, you'll simply have to provide the entire path. So what I want to copy is, delete this. I want to copy this 2 file and I want to paste it where? I want to paste it inside A. A doesn't have 2 as of yet. So that is what I want to do. MV2, because I'm already inside B and the file is present here itself. I don't need to give, in that case, B/2 because I'm already inside the B folder. There is not a requirement for me to give that path. So 2 MV space 2 and then the entire path, which is what? Root, file system, home, Ubuntu, A. This will do what? This will paste that particular file 2 inside the A folder. So ls will show me that 2 file is no longer present, which was there earlier. If I do cd ... and if I do lsa, you'll see there's 1, 2, and 3. So when you want to copy and paste something, like some file, let's say, and you are not at that particular location where the file is present, you have to write the whole path. In that case, you will have to write the whole path in that case. Similar for CP. You will have to give the entire path. Now this was for copying and copying and moving files. But when we are talking about folders, this is the exception that is present is when we are moving folders, we can do it just like how we do it for files. So for files and folders, the mv command remains the same. Files and folders, the mv command remains the same. However, when we want to use the copy command for folders, we need to use a flag called -r. Just like how we did in the case of removing folders, when we were deleting folders, what is the command that we are running? rm-r. That is the case for removal of files. In this case also, when we want to copy folders, removal of folders, not files, removal of folders. When we are doing the cp command, there also we need to use -r when we want to work with folders. When we want to work with folders, we need to use the -r flag. But when it comes to mv, there is no such requirement. When it comes to mv, even if we want to work with folders, we do not need to go ahead and use -r. That is not a requirement in the mv command. That is the you can say specification or the specific change that is going to be there, the exception that is going to be there. Right? This is the exception that is present, is that when we are working with folders, if we want to delete them, if we want to copy them, we need to use -r flag. That is a must. Without that, it will not work. But when we are working with the mv command, that is not a necessity. It is not required. That is an exception. So let me, because now we are working with folders, let me go ahead and remove these files 1, 2, 3 and this 3 inside A and B. So rm a/1, a/2, a/3. This will delete this 1, 2 and 3 folders. So rm followed by the names of the files. You can see those 3 files have been deleted. Similarly, lsb shows me there's 1 file. So rm b/3. This will delete that 3 file inside the B folder. Now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and let's say copy this file. Copy this folder. So this is the structure that is present at the moment is we have A, we have B, B has B1, A has A1 and A2. Now what I am wanting to do is I want to copy this A1 folder and I want to paste it inside the B folder. For that, what I'll have to do, cp-r followed by the name of the folder that I want to copy, which is A/A1 because it is present inside A1. I am located inside home/Ubuntu at the moment, and there's A, there's B. I want to copy this A1 folder inside B. A1 folder inside A, and I want to paste it in B. So cp-r A/A1 because I want to copy this A1 folder followed by the destination. So where exactly I want to paste it, which in this case is B. I want to paste it in B. So I will be mentioning the name of the folder, and once I hit enter, it will be copied. If I try it without R, you can see cp-r not specified, omitting directory. It is not able to copy and paste the directory at the destination provided because -r was not specified. So if I do cp-r, this will successfully copy and paste the A1 folder inside B as well. So if I do lsa, there is the original folder which is present here, A1, the original one is present. In addition to that, if I do ls space B, you can see there's A1 and B1. So there is A1 and B1. So this is how we can copy folders. So that is with the mv command as well, is that mv command works the same exact way as cp, but when I want to move folders, I don't need to mention -r. As in this case, you have seen mv followed by the name of the folder, let's say what I want to paste. I'm present, I think, inside home/Ubuntu. So if I want to paste this A folder inside B, what I would do, mv A and then B. This will paste the B folder inside A. lsb will show me there's the folder A, there's A1, there's B1. If you are already at the destination, you can just mention dot and it will copy the contents but not the directory. So what will happen is there is A, there's B. Inside A, there are 2 folders, A1, A2. Inside B, there are 2 folders, let's say B1, B2. There are 2 files inside A1, 1 and 2. So if I used dot when inside A1, it will just copy the contents. It will not copy the folder. So if I'm inside, let's say even A, and I mention A1, then it will copy this entire section. But if you're inside A1 and you mention dot as the source, it will only copy the contents or all of the contents. So 2 files are present, both of those files will be copied or moved in that case, not the folder which they are. So what I mentioned was, if I mention dot if I'm inside A1 and I want to copy the contents of A1 folder, I would be mentioning dot as the source and then whatever is the destination where I want to paste it. In that case, all the contents of my folder will be copied and pasted to wherever I have mentioned. But if I mention a folder name, like in this case A1, that entire folder will be copied and pasted or cut and pasted with its contents if I have mentioned the name of the folder, not just that 1 and 2 file. Okay. So this was for copy and move. Now that we have checked copy and move, we can go ahead and move on to the next command, which will be in case I want to install something. Let's say I want to install a particular tool on my machine. On this particular environment that I'm having, I want to install something. So in the case of Linux, we have a few methods that we can use for installing application, installing tools. We have a few methods. In the case of Windows, what we have a file called .exe that we can go ahead and execute in order to install the required tools. Right, it is sort of an executable file. In Linux, we have that particular extension depending on the distribution that we are using. So it depends on the distribution that we are using, what is going to be the process for the installation. So these are the two main methods that are there. The first one is going to be with the help of a package manager, and the second one will be with the help of files. So these are the two methods that we have available. What do we mean by a package manager? So when you're installing something, let's say in your mobile phones, whether be it from the Google Play Store or from the Apple App Store, right? You are just going ahead to that option and you're clicking on install. So in that case, Google Play or Play Store or your App Store, those are your package managers. They are managing the packages and they are installing it for you. In case you want to update it, you just let Play Store know that you go to that page of that application and you click on update. Or if you want to uninstall, you click on uninstall. The same is true here also with Linux. We have package managers. Package managers are going to be used to install tools to install as they are referred to packages. And these package managers are different for different applications, which means that, different distributions. For Ubuntu, there's a different package manager. For Red Hat, there's a different package manager. You don't need to remember everything because in addition to this package manager, there's also going to be a package name. So what is it that you want to install? Whether you want to install Java, whether you want to install MySQL, whether you want to install C, C++, C Sharp, what exactly it is that you want to install. That will be referred to by its package name, and the package manager will install that package for you. It is not possible to remember every single package name. So you can go ahead and search for the same as well on the official documentation for the packages. So if you search for it, let's say, I want to know what is the package name for Java. So in that case, there will be a page for Ubuntu packages. If I search for it, just Ubuntu packages search. This will allow me to search for my package. If that website opens, this website is very problematic. Sometimes it gives a 403 or 404 error. This is an official website of Ubuntu itself, https://packages.ubuntu.com. Yeah. So here we get to mention the name, the keyword basically. So Java, if you want to install, you'll just search for Java. Along with that, it has distribution. Now, what this means, this is not referring to the distribution of Linux, but rather the version of Ubuntu that we are using. The version of Ubuntu that we are using. So in this case, the version is going to be mentioned. So if I choose over here, these are the various versions that are present. Now in this case, they are referred to like this because Ubuntu has decided to name its versions basically. So 20.04 version of Ubuntu, 22.04, these versions have been given specific names. If I search Ubuntu 2024.04 name, Noble Numbat, that is the name for 24.04. For 23.10, it is Mantic Minotaur. For 22.04, Jammy Jellyfish. 20.04, Focal Fossa. So Ubuntu gives names to its versions. So depending on that, you'll have to choose the specific version of Ubuntu that you want, and you will just have to search for it. This is what I was talking about, internal server error. Gives it sometimes, but it still should search for it. If I try it again, internal server error. Now I guess it will open. It is a very problematic website. It is not that well maintained at all. Ubuntu is open source, so obviously it is not going to be that well maintained. But there are problems with the website, obviously. Now, if you want to search for any other distribution, you can just search for that as well. Just wait for that to load. Meanwhile, let's say you want to search for Red Hat. Red Hat is another distribution, or let's say Kali Linux. Kali packages list. So Kali Linux packages. Okay, this is meta packages. Finding packages for Kali Linux. So okay, SSL handshake field. So websites are not that well maintained. They are very problematic. So in the case of Kali Linux, what it is saying is, if you want to search for it, you have to search for it from the terminal only. So apt-cache search followed by the name. So in the case of Ubuntu, we have been given a particular website where we can search for packages. For whatever distribution you are going to be using, you will have to search for that in the like official website, right? Whatever website will be available, you'll just have to search for that how do I install packages or how do I find packages. It is not possible to remember the name of every single package, and it is not possible to remember the name of package manager of every single distribution either. So you will be able to use the Google or any other web search to be able to find that. Just things that you need to remember is, in the case of Ubuntu or other Debian distribution, Debian means that in the case of Linux, how exactly it is derived is, mainly we can say that there are two distributions. One of them is called as Debian and the other one is called as Red Hat or RHEL. These are the two main types of distributions that are going to be present. All the other distribution, you can say there are sort of children that are derived from these main distribution. There are other distribution types also. Ubuntu has been derived from Debian, which is why it uses the same package manager as Debian. So Debian machines, Debian distributions are going to be having the same package manager as Debian. The same goes for Red Hat. You don't need to like understand this in order to be able to install packages, but it is better if you know about it. Just know that depending on the distribution type, the package manager will be different. How do you know the version of Ubuntu you have or are working with? There are files present over here in my etc folder that I can check. So if I go back in file system, that means we can install packages, any packages as like Windows. In etc folder, there is going to be a file called OS release. This will let me know what version I have. So Ubuntu 20.04 LTS, which is focal fossa. So I've just used the cat command to fetch the contents of this file called OS release, which is present inside the etc folder, which contains information about my current uh, distribution of Linux and version of Linux which is installed. So let me clear the screen. So it will depend on the distribution that you are using, what package manager is to be used. If you are not aware about the package manager, you can simply search for it. So what is the package manager for Ubuntu? You can see that is the most searched thing that is there. Package manager for Ubuntu. That is apt in this case. The package manager for Ubuntu is going to be apt. Right, apt and apt-get. Apt-get is the older version. So apt-get, this was used much earlier in like the 1990s, late 1990s. apt-get was used, then it was upgraded and it is now just called as apt. This is also available. You can use this also to install, but most commonly apt is used. There is no you can say similarity in between the two. Both of them are package managers. It's just that apt is like the upgraded version of apt-get. But these are different package managers. apt-get is a different package manager. apt is a different package manager. Right? Now, if you want to search for, let's say, what is the package manager for Red Hat, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, that is going to be yum and rpm. These are package managers. So in the case of Ubuntu, what is the package manager? That is apt. That is the one that we'll be using. Now we can go ahead and use the apt command to install, update, delete packages that we want. So environment is going to expire in 4 minutes. Let me restart it. Start it. In the case of Debian based distributions, the package manager, the package that is going to be there will be having the extension .deb. The extension will be .deb for Debian and Debian based distributions. And for Red Hat based distributions, it will be .rpm or Red Hat Package Manager. This is going to be .deb, this is going to be .rpm. Do not compare it with the package manager, because the package manager itself, what it will do is it will download these packages, these files, and then install it. If I want to check that, let's say, if I want to install Java, I can just go to the official website. So download Java. and download Java for Windows. This is not what we want. Java downloads, simply this one. If we go to, we should be able to see that over here under Linux, what we have quite a few options. ARM64 compressed package, ARM64 RPM package. This is going to be for Red Hat based, which is this one, .rpm. x64 compressed archive. ARM64 means this is the architecture of the machine. So x64 is the machine that we are using, your laptop. ARM64 you can consider like Raspberry Pi and such. These are different machines that are there. Raspberry Pi architecture. Raspberry Pi, this is usually an using the ARM processor. So this is the ARM architecture. So in this case, you can see x64 Debian package, x64 RPM package, which is for Red Hat. This is for Debian, this is for Red Hat. So you will be able to download whatever package you want to download, and this is the link to download it, right? So you can see the extension is .deb and this is .rpm. So before I show how you are supposed to download files, I'll first of all show how you are supposed to install something. So in this case, we have checked that the package name for Java, we had searched it. I think it will search it again in order to successfully access it. So the problem with this website for Ubuntu packages, it is really unreliable. No problem, I am aware about the package, so I can just directly mention that. But if you are not aware, you can just search for it. So you can search package to install, let's say, Python in Kali Linux. Right. So the direct option will be from the official documentation itself. So Kali Linux, this will let you know what is the command that you need to run to be able to install it. So what is the command that needs to be run? Sudo apt install python 3-pip wh. This is if you want to install it. Now in this case, okay, it has opened now. You can see what is the name of the package? Java Common. Now this will depend what you want to install, which particular package you want to install will depend on what your functionality is, like what exactly it is that you want to perform. Like base package for Java, or if you want the Debian Java policy, wrappers for Java executable. So it will depend on what you want to perform. So if I take the first package, let's say, how exactly it is supposed to be installed, you run the command apt and then install followed by the package name. Apt install, then the package name will install that particular package for you. At the same time, apt remove package name will remove that particular package over there. Right, apt install will install, apt remove will remove, apt update will update the current list of packages. apt update will update the list of packages that are available. When we are running the command apt install and then the package name, it will install that along with its dependencies only. Whenever we are running this command, it will not only install what is required for Java, but its prerequisites, what its dependencies are as well. So apt install Java Common, if I run this command, it will install Java over here for me. It might ask in certain cases, in certain installation, it asks for additional input. Additional input means, are you sure you want to continue installing? Yes or no. Right, these types of things you might encounter. So what you will have to do, you'll just have to write yes or Y and hit enter. So when you're installing something in your mobile, when you're installing an application, it is installed in your mobile. The same is true here also. It is installed in your machine, not in a particular folder. When you are running the command for installing it, it is not saying that it is installed only in that folder. It is installed in your machine, in your environment, in your laptop. It is not that only in that particular folder it is going to be working. That is not the case. So since I'm not like it is not being installed in a particular folder, wherever I installed it, it doesn't matter. Wherever I'm installing it, it doesn't really matter as long as I'm running the command to install it. Now, if I want to remove it, apt remove, then the package name. Forgot to paste it. Copy it again. So it is asking after this operation, this many KB will be freed. Why? Because Java common will be removed. If I write Y and hit enter, only then this operation will proceed further. If I write N, this will abort the operation because I have mentioned no, I don't want to continue. If I write yes or Y and hit enter, this will continue and it will uninstall that particular application. And there's another command which is apt update, which what it does, it updates the list of packages that are available. It updates the list of the packages that are available. So you can think of it like updating your Windows machine. So in your Windows, you have an update, right? Windows update. It is the same exact thing over here. Okay. So this was one of the methods that we can use in order to install packages. Now, another method that is there is via this particular file that is present. This file that is there, Debian and RPM. So depending on the distribution type, you will have to decide. So if you don't know whether it is a Debian distribution or a Red Hat distribution, you can just search for it. So is Ubuntu a Debian or Red Hat distribution? So Debian, Ubuntu is a Debian based distribution. So we will have to use this .deb file and not the RPM file. So I'll have to download this particular file, the .deb file. So in order to download, what is the command that we use? For downloading files, we use a command called wget. Wget followed by the link, if we will paste, that particular file will be downloaded. So currently you can see only file system and snap are present. If I copy this link, the Debian link, and if I do wget followed by the link, when I will run this command, what it will do, it will download that particular file. If I were to click on this link as well in my machine, what it would have done, it would have started the download as well. You can see it is asking me where I want to download the file. Now what I have done, I copied the link and I did wget followed by the link. This will download that particular file. As you can see, it is present over here. So this is how we can download file. Now this is not just for this .deb files, any file that you have. If you have the download link for that file, you can download it using the wget command. So wget followed by the the link that you want to download. Now this is another method of installation that we are using, is that in this case, we do not use apt yum RPM. These we are not using over here. This is a different method. This is the second method that I mentioned. So now, if this method is what I want to use, the command that I'll have to use is dpkg Debian package. So dpkg is what I'll have to use to install this. So dpkg followed by what I want to do with this package. If I mention over here -i followed by the package name, this will install that package. I can use -help also to show that to you. So what exactly are the flags that are present for me? -i, which is used to install, -r, which is used to remove, -p, which is used to purge, -v, which is used to verify. What is the difference between purge and remove? Purge is remove is just going to uninstall this particular package that I'm installing. So in this case, Java, JDK, it is only going to remove this, but purge will not only remove this, but also any other, you can say dependencies, requirements, prerequisites, any additional softwares that were installed during the installation of this package. Remove in this case will only remove this particular package, but purge will not only remove this, delete any files that were like, you can say any residual files, any additional packages, everything will be deleted, right? So that we can specify over here. If I want to install it, dpkg -i followed by the package name. So you can see it was successfully installed over here. Similarly, if I want to remove, dpkg -r and then the name of the package. Okay, so in this case, you can see error. You must specify packages by their own names, not by quoting the names of the files they come in. So in this case, I cannot give the name of the file to install it. Rather, what I'll have to do, I'll have to give the name of the package. You can say by specifying packages by their own names. I have to give the name of the package in order to install it. How can I get the list for that? I can get the list using the where is it present here? Let me check it. -l. Using the -l command, I can list the packages that are present. So I can do dpkg -l, listing all of the packages for me. And there are lots of lines that are present here. I'll have to check them. So for Java, it should be present at JDK22. This is the name of the package. What I'll have to do is I'll have to simply copy this, exit from here. So using the Q button, I will exit, and then dpkg -r followed by that name which I have copied, removing JDK22. And that's it. Now, one thing we need to see is that these tasks that we are performing them as a regular user. What do you mean by regular user? So in the case of Linux, you can have two types of main users. One of them can be a regular user, and the other one that is present, that is an admin user or a root user, which essentially has heightened privileges, right? It essentially has heightened privileges, which means that it has the permission to do just about anything. And the username for that particular user is root, right? It is referred to as the root user or the admin user. So whenever you want to perform a particular task with heightened privileges, with heightened permission, or with admin permission, you run sudo before that command. So sudo followed by the command that you want to execute. So you can do sudo apt update or sudo copy, sudo mv, sudo mkdir, excuse me, any particular command you can add sudo in front of it if it is giving you permission denied, because you don't have enough permissions to perform that particular action or that particular task, right? So all you will have to do is add sudo as the prefix for that particular command that you are executing. Okay. The command to delete specific lines in the history, that is available over here. I can use this -d flag to delete history lines over there, history entries, which means that if I do history -d followed by whatever point number I'm mentioning, so whatever line number I'm mentioning, that will be deleted. So if I do history -d1, then you can see the first line has been deleted. In this case, the first line was apt get update. You can see it was successfully deleted. Right? So we can delete lines using that particular command over there with the -d flag. Okay. So now the final section that we are going to be checking, that is going to be the chmod command. As I had mentioned, this is the final command that we are going to be checking. So even if you are unable to understand the chmod command, do not worry, because this is most commonly going to be used by Linux administrators who are actually in control of giving permissions. Right. However, you should be aware about how to read these permissions that are present. You don't have to use the command to give permissions, but the permission format that is present, you should be able to at least understand that. So when I will run the command ls-l, it will give me this section over here. There are only 3 files here. Let me go somewhere. Yeah, this place looks good. So here you can see there are lots of files and folders that are present. And if we check it over here, these are the permissions that have been allocated. Let me go inside home/Ubuntu and create a file of my own. So touch1.txt. If I do ls-l, you will see that this is the permission that has been defined for that particular file. Now, what does this mean? Why is it mentioned? Why are there total 10 characters over here? Let me go ahead and explain that now. When we are assigning permissions, it is going to be in this format. So first of all, there's going to be one entry here. Then there's going to be in the next 3 sections, 3 entries per section. So which means there are going to be 3 entries over here per section that will be present. And each of these 3 entries will be for a set or a user or a set of users. So now when a file is being created, someone will be the owner of that particular file. Someone will be the owner of that particular file. Now that totally depends on the Linux administrator, that who he wants to give ownership for that file. And that is done using a different command, which is even more complicated. We're not going to be checking that command, but regardless, I'll let you know. The command is chown. So chown stands for change ownership. chmod stands for change the permissions, basically change modifications, right? So that is what this stands for. Now, these three particular sections that are present, the first one is for the owner. First one is for the owner of the file, the person who actually owns that particular file. In Linux, just like you can think of it like in an organization, if you think about an organization, you will have different departments, right? And different departments will have different employees. There will be lots of employees in every single department. You can compare that department as a group in Linux and that employee as an user, right? So a user is going to be part of a group in Linux. It can be, it cannot be, it's up to you. Not you, but the Linux administrator, whether he wants to keep that user as part of a group or not. But you can compare it saying that in your organization or in any institution, let's say, for your maths division, for your maths subject, there are going to be 5-6 teachers, right? For your science division, in physics, there are going to be 10 teachers. Chemistry, there will be 9 teachers, let's say. And then biology, there will be 5-6 teachers. So in every single division, there will be different teachers, right? You can compare those divisions, those particular subjects as groups, and those teachers as users. So users are part of groups, and the user that has ownership of a file is referred to as the owner. Now this first one is used to define the permission for the particular owner of the file. So the owner of the file, what permission he is going to be having is defined by this first set over here. So this first set defines the owner's permission. What does the next set of characters decide? The next set of character decides the permission for the group that the owner belongs to. So the particular group that this owner is going to belong to, that is going to define this particular permission set. So when we are saying group, we are saying all the users apart from the owner. So as I mentioned, let's say in maths, you have 3 teachers, right? Teacher 1, teacher 2, teacher 3. Teacher 1 is going to be, let's say, the department head, which I'm considering as the owner. So apart from this owner or the department head, the others are going to be having what permissions? That will be decided on in the next 3 set, in the next character set. And finally, the last one is for basically others. Others means everyone other than this particular group is going to be having what permission. So everyone apart from this, what permissions they are supposed to be having, that is going to be decided by these 3 characters. Because you can think of it this way, that the maths teachers, they don't need to be having access to the biology lab. They don't need to have access to the chemistry lab. They don't need to have access to the physics lab, the computer lab. That is not required. They need to have access to the library. They need to have access to, let's say, their own classes, but they don't need to be able to access the biology lab because they don't have any work there. That is where this permission sets come into play, where you get to decide, not you, but the Linux administrator gets to decide what permission should be available for what user depending on their specific needs. So these set of characters that are present, in total there are 10 set of characters that will be present. Now, what do we mean by those 10 characters? Let me see. So the first one that is present, then there are 3 characters present in a set, and that is repeated 2 more times. Now, in the first set, in the first entry for each of these sets, that is, right? This one, this one, this one. It can be either R or hyphen. R means there is read permission. Hyphen means there isn't read permission. So there are in total 3 types of permissions that are there. The first one can only have R. The second one can only have W. The third one can only have X. And this is across all these 3 sets. So it can either have R, W, X or hyphen, which defines the you can say absence of that permission. If R is written there, that means read permission is present. If hyphen is there, that means read permission is not present. So when I'm having this, let's say the first one also, the first one I also have to discuss. The first one is usually defined. It is left as hyphen in the case of a file. But when we are talking about folders, we have that set as D, which refers to a directory. The first one defines whether it is a file or a directory. If it is a file, it will be hyphen. If it is a directory, it will be written as D. There are other options that are present as well, but these 2 are the most common ones, and you should know at the very least about these 2. The main, however, is these 9 characters that are present. So as I have mentioned, the first one I'm now specifically talking about these 9 apart from the first one. I'm ignoring that now and only mentioning these character sets. The first one can only have R or hyphen. The second one can only have W or hyphen. And the third one can only have X or hyphen. R means there is read permission. Hyphen means there isn't read permission. W means there is write permission. And X means there is executable permission. Hyphen defines the absence of those permissions. Now, you cannot go ahead and mention R in the next line, right? You cannot mention R in place of W. It is always going to be R, W, X. This is the order. You have to follow it because you cannot mention it anywhere, any other way around, right? Because this is the format, this is the structure, this is the syntax that has been defined. You cannot go ahead and change that syntax. Now, if I want to go ahead and let's say give permission for the owner. So I want that only the owner, which is defined by the first set, only the owner has permission to read and write the file, read and write into the file. I don't want the owner to have executable permissions. I don't want anyone else to have any other permissions at all. In that case, what I'm going to be having, what I'm going to be left behind with in the case of this permission set is hyphen, because it is a file, RW, and then hyphen. Why? Because I want the owner to only have read-write permission. I don't want executable permission. So instead of X, hyphen has been mentioned. Then again, for the next 6 characters, hyphen is going to be there. Why? Because I mentioned clearly that only the owner of the file should have permission to read and write the file. no executable permissions, no other permissions at all, not even to read to any other particular person. Only the owner needs to have permission. Now, how are these character sets defined? The first one, the first character set that is present, that is referred to as the owner or O. Second one as the group or G. Third one as others or, I'm sorry, give the wrong character over here. It's not O, it is U. U is referred to as the owner of the file. O is referred to as others. U is referred to as the owner. G as the group the owner belongs to. O as others. Which means if I want to give permission to any one of the particular section, so whenever we will want to give permissions, not give, but modify our permissions, change our permissions, then we would have to go ahead and use these shorthands. So U is referred to as the owner, G as the group the owner belongs to, O as others. Apart from that, the three types of permissions that we have is R, W, and X. Another type of user that we can have is all three of these combined. If I'm talking about, that will be given the shorthand or the, you can say, character as A, which refers to as all. Now this method of giving permissions, of changing or modifying permissions, is referred to as the symbolic mode for chmod. This is referred to as the symbolic mode for giving permissions or for modifying permissions. There's another mode that is available that is referred to as the octal mode, which is more complicated as compared to the symbolic mode. So in the octal mode, what happens is, instead of giving permissions using these characters that we have defined, rather than doing that, what we usually do is, let's say this is our set that we are having. What we do is, every single, you can say, permission, which is read, write, and execute, is given a character. Execute is given 1, write is given 2, and read is given 4. This is a number that is assigned to these permissions instead of the character. And depending on what is mentioned here, we add up the numbers allocated over here and we mention that number. So let's say it was RW hyphen. That means instead of RW hyphen, what are we going to write over here? We are going to write 4 plus 2, which is 6. And in this case, depending on what the permissions are present, you'll have to mention that number itself. So if it was hyphen hyphen hyphen, then it would be 0. But if, let's say, here permissions were there, so hyphen WX, which means that read permission is not present, but write and execute permission is given. In that case, what is going to be the case? 2 plus 1, which is 3. So 603 in that case will be the number defined to allocate this permission set. So using chmod, these are the two modes that I can use to define permissions. But the permissions are always going to be, you can say, shown or displayed in this RWX pattern itself. It is not going to be having this octal pattern. It is not going to be displayed in the octal pattern, but it will be shown in this symbolic pattern itself. So in this case, I have what? RW hyphen R hyphen hyphen R hyphen hyphen. We add the numbers for this and then we mention that over here. Read is given 4, write is given, read is given 1, read is given 1, I gave the correct one itself. Read is 4, write is 2, execute is 1. So we sum it up and then we mention it. RW hyphen, which means 4 plus 2 plus 0, which is 6. R hyphen hyphen 4, R hyphen hyphen 4. So that is how we define the permission. So now if we want to give the permission, chmod followed by, if the octal pattern is to be followed, you mention the characters and then the name of the file, which let's consider this .bash logout file. So .bash logout. So if I do 000, what it should do is everything should be hyphen over here. Everything should be hyphen because in this case, I'm saying no permission should be given to anyone. Right? Hyphen, 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 hyphen. At the same time, if I want to bring back this permission set, what I'll have to do is simply do 644 and it will bring back that same exact permission pattern. So RW hyphen, R hyphen hyphen, R hyphen hyphen. Similarly, if I want to use the octal mode, this is the method. But if I want to use the symbolic mode, then it is much more easier because then you do just chmod what permission you want to give. Because as I mentioned, this first 3 characters, that is for the owner. Next 3 is for the group. Last 3 is for the others. So you decide. U stands for owner, G stands for group, O stands for others, A stands for all, which means everyone. And permissions are R, W, X. So let's say you want to give write permissions to the group and others for this file. Right? You want to give the group write permissions for the group and others. What you would do? Chmod G plus W. So plus to give permissions, minus to revoke permissions. So G plus W is going to give the write permissions to the group, comma O plus W will give the write permission to the others. G plus W, comma O plus W followed by the file name, which is .bash underscore logout. So now you can see bash logout has what? Hyphen RW hyphen RW hyphen RW hyphen instead of R hyphen hyphen. Similarly, if I want to revoke the write permission, chmod, let's say from others I want to revoke. So O minus W dot bash underscore logout, the file name. Here you can see RW hyphen RW hyphen R hyphen hyphen. So from the others section, I revoked the write permission. So with plus, we grant permissions. With minus, we revoke permissions. If you want to execute, let's say for this .ssh folder, if you want to execute it and you want to set the permissions, and what you want to do is not only for that file, but also for any subfolders, subfiles that are present, for those also you want to change the permissions. Then you would be using chmod -r. So when you're doing it with folders and you want to give the permissions not only for the folder but also the subfolders, subfiles, anything that is present inside the folder as well, then -r will be used. Okay.
Just a quick info guys, Intellipaat offers advanced certification in cloud and DevOps in collaboration with IIT Guwahati. Through this course, you will learn a multitude of tools used in the industry such as Azure, DevOps, and AWS. With this course, we have already helped thousands of professionals in successful career transition. You can check out their testimonials on our Achievers channel, whose link is given in the description below. Without a doubt, this course can set your career to new heights, so visit the course page link given in the description and take a first step towards a career growth in the field of cloud and DevOps.
Starting off with the very first question, which is what is Linux and how is it different from Unix? Linux and Unix are both strong operating systems, but they are designed for different purposes and audience. Linux is a free open source and widely used on everything from personal computer to servers and even smartphones. It is constantly improved by a large community of developers, which means faster updates and bug fixes. Unix, on the other hand, is a proprietary system mainly used in enterprise environment like large servers and workstation because it is not open source and you need a license to use it. And updates tend to be slower compared to Linux. Another key difference is flexibility. Linux supports a wide range of system and hardware, making it super versatile. Unix is more specialized and tailored for specific enterprise level tasks. In simple terms, Linux is an open source accessible to everyone, perfect for personal and professional use. Unix is more exclusive, often used in large organizations where stability and dedicated supports are key. Moving ahead with our next question, which is what is Linux kernel and why is it important? The Linux kernel is like the brain of the Linux operating system. It's the core part that connects your hardware and software, managing key resources like CPU, memory and devices to keep everything running smoothly. It handles important tasks like running multiple programs at once, like process management, organizing file and storage like file system management, and managing network communication. One thing about the kernel is the hardware abstraction. This means software doesn't need to know the details of your hardware. It just communicates with the kernel. This makes Linux both flexible and efficient. Another great feature is modularity. You can add extra features like device driver or network protocol without messing with the main system. This makes Linux super customizable, whether it's for personal use or powering servers. In short, the Linux kernel is essential for making sure that your hardware and software work together seamlessly. Moving ahead with our next question, which is what is a shell in Linux and how is it different from Bash? In Linux, a shell is basically a command line interface that lets you interact with operating system. You can think of it as a bridge between you and system's kernel. It takes the command you type, interprets them and executes them. Shells come handy with features like scripting, command history and job control, which help you automate tasks and manage process more efficiently. Popular shell in Linux include Bash, ZSH and Fish. Now Bash, a short of Born Again shell, is one of the most commonly used shell. It's an improved version of original Bourne shell SH and comes with extra features like better scripting tools, command line editing and supports for array and function. Here's an easy way to understand the difference. A shell is a general term for any command line interface, while Bash is a specific type of shell with advanced feature. If you're looking for something powerful and user-friendly for scripting or command line tasks, Bash is a great choice. Moving ahead with our next question, which is what are the basic components of a Linux OS? The Linux operating system is built on 5 key components, each essential for smooth operation. First is the kernel, the core of Linux, meaning it manages hardware resources and bridge hardware and software. It handles tasks like memory management, process scheduling, and device communication. Second is the system library. These libraries provide functions that allow application to access kernel feature without directly interacting with it. So they simplify software development by implementing core functionality, making the development more efficient. Third is the system utility. Specialized programs handle tasks like file management, system monitoring, and configuration, supporting daily operation. The fourth is the bootloader. It initializes the system by loading the kernel into memory at startup, enabling boot up, meaning it's essential for enabling the system to boot up. Finally, application software. Programs like browsers or editors installed by user often via app stores in Linux, distributions like Ubuntu. So together, these components ensure Linux flexibility and efficiency. Moving on to fifth question, which is what is the init process in Linux? The init process in Linux is like the system's manager. It takes over as soon as your computer starts up. When you turn on your Linux machine, the kernel or the core of the operating system gets loaded into the memory and starts working. But the kernel doesn't handle users' process or services. That's where init comes in. Init is the very first process the kernel starts. and it always has a process ID of 1. Its main job is to set up the system and manage everything that runs after booting. This includes first, starting essential service like network setting or background tasks. Second, setting the system's mode, run level or target, like whether you are using a graphical interface or just the command line. Third, keeping an eye on process and restarting them if they crash. In many modern Linux systems, init has been replaced by systemd, which is faster, more efficient and offers greater flexibility. Okay, so moving ahead with the next question, which is how do you find files in Linux? Okay, so to find files in Linux, the find command is used. Okay, this find command is used, which is designed for comprehensive file and directory searches within a hierarchical structure. So its adaptability allows user to search by name, size, modification. You can search a file by its name, size or modification or content, providing a flexible and potent solution. So this is the whole syntax. You will use find, then path, then options. Options as in you refine the searches such as type F for files or type D for directories, and then expressions. It sets condition like name txt for matching file's name. So we'll see a quick demo. I'll open the Ubuntu Linux. Okay, I'll go on my terminal. Okay, so this is our terminal. So to find the file, firstly we'll need to create a file. We'll create the file touch, suppose file 1.txt. okay, so we have created this file, and to find the file we'll be needing the directory we are working in. So we'll check the directory, which is home akanksha. Okay, so to see where this file has been created, we'll write find command, find, then /home, this name of this directory, akanksha, then hyphen type F, then name, then double inverted commas, and name of the file, file 1.txt. okay, that's it. See, so it gave you the whole path where your file is. Home, then akanksha, and file 1.txt is present. Okay, that's all for this question. Moving ahead with our next question, which is what is the difference between soft link and hard link? Okay, so hard link and soft links are the two ways to create references to file in a Linux or Unix system. So let me explain you in more detail. Talking about the hard link, okay. So it's like having two identical names for the same file. Both names directly point to the actual data on your storage. For example, this is your original file and this is your hard link. So they are pointing to the same data. And if you delete one name, the original file, for example, if you delete this one, the other file or the hard link still works because the data is still there. You can think of it as file having two doorways to access the same room. Talking about the limitation, hard links only work within the same storage area, for example, file system, and you can't use them to link folders unless you're a system administrator. Now talking about this soft link, a soft link or a symbolic link is more like a shortcut you create on your desktop. It points to the file's location rather than the actual data. This makes it more flexible. You can link file across different storage area and it works for folder also. But here's the thing, if the original file is moved or deleted, for example, if you delete this original file, the soft link stop working because it does not contain the actual data and it just contains this file's address. So the actual data is connected with this original file only, with this data on the hard disk, and if you delete this, the soft link will also be destroyed eventually. Okay, so here's the table which is showing you the key differences. A pointer to the original file, reference, can link across different file, must obey the same file system. Deleting the original file breaks the links, but a file remains accessible. And what's the creation command? In S symbolic link, target link name, in target link name. And for storage, it requires additional inode for the link, and it shares the same inode with the original file. Okay, so moving ahead with our next question, which is, how do you change file permission in Linux using chmod command? To change the file permission in Linux, use the chmod command. For read, you'll R, for write W, and for execute. Okay, and for three different group, owner, groups and other, you can modify permission using symbolic or numeric nodes. Okay, let's see how it works. So if you want to give the read permission to a file, we'll write chmod O equals to R, then the name of the file, which is file1.txt. Okay, so we have given the read permission. Now you can't write from the file, just you can read from the file. Similarly, for execution, you can give chmod u plus x, then the name of your file. For the write permission, you can give chmod g-w file name.txt. Okay, so moving ahead with our next question, which is, what are the different type of permission available for files in Linux? So in Linux, the file permission decide who can do what. Who can do what with a file. You can think of it as like a security batch where each file has three type of user and three type of action. First of all, who can access? Owner, group or others. In owner, there comes the creator of the file. In group, a specific group of users like team members who can access the file. And in others, everyone else like the visitor who are coming to see the file. And what are the actions? Actions are read, write and execute. In read, you can view the file content. In write, you can modify the file content, whereas in execute, you can run the file as a program. And permissions are displayed as symbols like R, W and X, or the numbers 4, 2, 1. And each file shows permission for user in a format like this one. You can see here rw-r-r. Here the owner can read and write, but the others can only read. So suppose if you want to give the permission to owner only to read and write, you can use this one, and all other can just read from that file. And of course we use chmod command to manage the file accessibility, like we just discussed in the previous question. Okay, moving ahead with the next question. How do you create and manage symbolic link? Okay, so symbolic links, also known as symlinks or a soft links, are the files in Linux that point to other files or directory. We just read what are soft links and hard links, and that symbolic link, that same soft link is known as symbolic links. Okay, so to create the symbolic link, here's the command. Okay, and let's see the demo for this creation. Okay, so to create the symbolic link, we'll use ln, then symbolic link -s, then the name of our directory, home, Akanksha, we checked with pwd command, then the name of the file for which we want to create the link. So the Akanksha, then the name of the file, file1.txt, then space, then home, Akanksha, then what do we want to name this link? Suppose first one -link .txt. Okay, so this is how you created symbolic link. You can go on your files. So file1.txt. So whenever you will write anything in your first one link.txt, suppose we wrote hey, and when you will save it and you will go in your file 1.txt, discard and reload the changes, you will see that the same thing you wrote in first link.txt will be displayed in file 1.txt, because you have created a link and this first one link.txt is pointing to file 1.txt. Okay, so this is all for this question. Moving ahead with our next question, which is how do you check the current path or directory? Okay, so we use this pwd command to check our current path or directory. So let's see the demo for this. Let's go on our terminal. Okay, pwd will write, so we'll see that this home Akanksha directory we are working in currently. Moving ahead with our next question, which is how do you combine two commands and what is the use of pipe in Linux? So in Linux, you can combine two commands and use a pipe to send the output of one command as an input of another. So the pipe is used to send the output of one command you are using directly to the input to another command, which allows chain command together, enabling more complex tasks in a single line. Okay, so you can say it like this is the command 1, then you are using this pipe, then this command 2. So the first command whose output will be piped and the second command that will process the output command. Okay, so let's see how it works. So suppose you want to list all the files in the directory and search for a specific file name. Okay, so we will be using ls command to list all the files. Then we will be using this pipe command and this grep to search for the specific file name. For example, first.txt. Okay, let's see. So ls command will list all the files in directory and grep command shows the output of ls command to only show that particular file. Okay, so here it showed first.txt. Okay, let me explain in more simpler manner. For example, we will be first using only ls command. So it listed all the files present here and then we'll be using ls space pipe grep to list only that particular file, first.txt. Okay, it showed you the file. So you understood what is the use of pipe command. Moving ahead with the next question, which is how can you check for free disk space? So this you can see here, this df command, which stands for a disk free and shows available and used disk space on the system, and df-h shows disk space in human readable format. Okay, so when you will use this df command, okay, you will get output like this, but when you will use this df-h, you will get a output in a human readable format. So let's see, suppose we wrote only df, you will get data which is not a human understandable format. So when you will write df space -h, you will get this size in kbs and mbs and used and available, which you can easily read. Okay, so this is the use of df command by which you can check for the free disk space. Okay, moving ahead with our next question, which is write a command to find files with the .txt extension containing a specific string. Okay, so the syntax for finding the commands with specific string is grep. Okay, so when you use grep, you will search for a specific file. Okay, let's see the demo for this question. Okay, so suppose we want to list all the files containing hey in them. Okay, then what we will do, we'll write grep, then rl hey, okay, then -- include, and then double inverted commas, asterisk .txt home, then Akanksha. Okay, so you see, when you wrote grep and you are listing all the files which contain hey, what this is showing as, you have a file name file1.txt which contains this string hey. Okay, so this is how you can find a specific string using grep command. So moving ahead with our next question, which is what are the different ways to view the content of a file without using the cat command? Okay, so there are this 5 method by which you can view the content of a file without using cat command, which is less, more, head, tail and nl. So the command for less is less file name, more file name, then eventually for all these things. And what are the uses? When you're using less command, it will view the file content page by page. When you're using the more command, it is viewing the file content forward only. When you're using head command, it will view the first 10 lines of the file. For tail, it will view the last 10 lines. And for NL, it will view the content with line numbers. Okay, so you can practice it on your own. I'll be showing you just the less command. Okay, so when I am using less file 1.txt, see, it's viewing all the text which is present in the file. Okay, so that's all for this question. Moving ahead with our next question, which is how do you check the current IP address of your Linux server? So to check the IP address of a Linux server, you can use the command like IP address or hostname I for straightforward input. So the simple command is IPA only. So the IPA is a part of IP suite command used to display network interfaces and their configuration, and it provides detailed information about all the network interface on your Linux system, including IP address, MAC address, interface status, and many more. So let's see how it works. You will write IPA and it gave you the IP address. This is your IP address for your particular system. Okay. Moving ahead with our next question, which is what is SSH and how is it used to access a Linux server remotely? So SSH or a secure shell is a cryptographic protocol used to access and manage Linux server remotely. It provides encrypted communication between your local machine and the server, ensuring that data is protected during the transmission. So you can see here, this is a SSH client. It's sending an information hello, okay, and this is being encrypted, meaning this hello is being converted into some another unreadable format by humans, and when this data is received to this end, it is changed to a readable format. Okay, so to access the Linux server using SSH, you can follow the steps like ensuring a SSH client is installed in your system, and you can use a terminal and you can run a particular command, and you can then authenticate by entering the service password or using a SSH key. So the basic syntax is SSH, username, hostname or IP address, and here you can replace the username with your remote server username and hostname or IP address with your particular server's hostname or IP address. So SSH is widely used for executing commands, managing file and performing administrative tasks on a remote server, which is more secure, efficient and an essential tool for server management. Okay, moving ahead with the next question, which is what is a package manager in Linux and why is it useful? So in Linux, a package manager is like your go-to tool for managing software on your system. It automates the process of installing, updating, configuring and removing software packages or application and libraries. So it handles everything, okay. Whether you are a newbie or an experienced Linux user, it simplifies all the software management. And why is it so important? Because first, it manages the dependency. Okay. So Linux program often rely on other packages to work, and the other package manager automatically fetches and installs these dependencies for you. So when you're using a Linux system and you want to, for example, install a web browser, you will just write a simple command and the package manager, it will fetch that package from the repository and it will give back to you. Second, it keeps your system stable. So it ensures that different package works well together, preventing compatibility issues. Third, it simplifies update. With just one command, you can update all your software and keep your system up to date. Then fourth, which is centralized repository. In Linux, software comes from trusted repository, and the package manager ensures that you get verified and reliable program. Okay, so talking about some of the most widely used package managers in Linux, which is first apt, second yum, third DNF. apt also stands for Advanced Package Tool. YUM, Yellow Dog Updater. DNF, Denified Yum. So we can say in a nutshell that in Linux world, the flexibility and customization are key, and a package manager makes that life easier by automating software installation and maintenance. Moving ahead with the next question, which is, how do you terminate an ongoing process in Linux? So this kill command is used to terminate an ongoing process in Linux, which sends a signal to a process instructing it to terminate. And what's the syntax? Kill, then option, then PID. Let's see the demonstration. Okay. So by using this kill, you see that it has killed all the ongoing process in the Linux. Okay. Moving ahead with our next question, which is, how do you check systems architecture and CPU memory stats? So a command line utility or LSCPU in Linux is used to get CPU information of the system. The LSCPU command fetches the CPU architecture information from this particular file and it displays it onto the terminal. So this command reports data about memory, paging, disk and CPU activities, etc. And the first use of this command return the data averages since the last reboot. Further, user return the data based on sampling periods of long delays. Okay, so let's see how it works. Okay, so to view the disk statistic, we'll use the command vmstat-d. So you see, it provided all the information related to that CPU.
Just a quick info guys, Intellipaat offers advanced certification in cloud and DevOps in collaboration with IIT Guwahati. Through this course, you will learn a multitude of tools used in the industry such as Azure, DevOps and AWS. With this course, we have already helped thousands of professionals in successful career transition. You can check out their testimonials on our Achievers channel, whose link is given in the description below. Without a doubt, this course can set your career to new heights, so visit the course page link given in the description and take a first step towards a career growth in the field of cloud and DevOps.